This is Mike.
And this is Drew.
Welcome to the Mike and Drew at Mountain View podcast. It is January 15th, 2023, and for episode 7, we want to know, is social media helping or harming us? Specifically, in this podcast, we're going to focus on social media consumption. Our special guest with us today is our friend and IT specialist, Brady Boone.
That's right.
And you have a YouTube channel which is called...
Brady Boone.
Wow, that was just one more time. That was...
Brady Boone.
Wow, okay. Well...
It took a lot of thought to come up with that name, but...
It's like my email, you know. Well, I'm not going to give my email over this podcast.
It's podcast at MVCC6mile.org.
Thank you. That's the one I meant. So let's, we talked about content creation in the last podcast. If you missed episode 6, I'd encourage you to go listen to that first because it will fill in some of the blanks here. But let's focus on consumption. And this is a little more personal. The last one was kind of fun, but this is like a confession booth podcast.
All right. So I figured since we're talking about social media consumption, I just pulled up my screen time for the week. I'm just going to read it off because we're being out in the open here. My daily average screen time was 3 hours and 51 minutes. YouTube, 7 hours and 18 minutes I spent on YouTube this week. I spent 4 hours and 4 minutes on Facebook this week, and 2 hours and 35 minutes on Snapchat this week. Now, part of this is that my other job, I work from home. I can watch YouTube videos while I'm sitting at home, and I use my phone a lot for my job. So that 3 hours and 51 minutes, I'm getting paid for a lot of that, so it's different. But this is alarming that I spent almost 8 hours on YouTube this week. Who's up? We're all sharing today.
Yeah, so mine's 2.75 hours a day, and for me, I'm either using Facebook because I'm old, or I'm using YouTube, which includes YouTube on the Xbox One in the living room to watch. We even rent movies on that at this point.
Oh, so yeah, I forgot about that.
It skews. So we rent a lot of episodes and movies through YouTube, but I would say at this point, those are my two, YouTube and Facebook.
My top three my screen time for the week was average of 3.5 hours per day.
I got you beat.
You did. Congratulations. Top was YouTube for 5 hours and 28 minutes. Next was messages, texting, 3 hours and 40 minutes. And then third was Instagram, 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Now, I don't have the time on my messages, but I know at this point I average close to 20 or 25 text messages a day.
Yeah.
And some of that is ministry with this church. Some of that's family issues going on back in Kansas. And some of that is past churches and follow-up questions. So I don't even know what I spend on messages. Yeah. I just know I would like to reduce my time on the phone.
Yeah, I agree. Did you ever pay per text message on your phone plan?
How old do you think I am?
I don't know. I think I did.
Yes, with Sprint, I did at one point. I had a maximum number I could use, and I never reached that maximum number because I didn't have many friends. Let's keep this conversation going.
I would give Verizon a shout out, but I don't have any service at Mountain View, so I can't.
I don't think anyone does out here.
Well, this is the valley of the shadow of cell phone reception death.
Yeah.
If we're here, we're on Wi-Fi calling.
That's right.
Well, okay, but so let's talk about with this consumption. We've been personal now, so you guys have heard our confessions. So let's get more big pictures. So let's talk about what you shared some stats earlier, Drew. Go over some of those numbers because you were pulling out.
I have many more.
Some. If you don't, that's fine. But you had some really large numbers for specific social media content, and you've mentioned Snapchat, Instagram. Some of these I don't use, but they are very relevant and very popular. So if you have those specific numbers, we can go over them. If not, we can keep on rolling.
As of 2021, Facebook is the largest social media platform globally with 2.85 billion monthly active users worldwide. YouTube follows with 2.2 billion. Then WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook Messenger, and WeChat all having over 1 billion users. I don't know what WeChat is. Do you know what that is?
I do not.
WeChat.
Supposed to say like the Nintendo console?
No, like WE. I don't know.
Well,
anyway, so this is not something that's going away anytime soon.
Right.
Very obvious. I mean, 2.85 billion is like, I don't know what percentage of the world that is, but it's like up there, isn't it? Like 25% or something like that?
What's the world population? 8 something? Or are we're still at 7? We almost at 8?
World
Can't remember.
population. Hold on.
Well, while you're looking up
7.888 billion.
Okay, I knew
as
we
of
were, I knew we
2021.
were close.
7.88 billion.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you this, I remember as far as consuming social media, when I was in Israel in 2014, I had just purchased my first smartphone because I was going to be traveling internationally.
Mm-hmm.
So I took this smartphone. Speaking of internationally, did we not just discover that this podcast you're listening to right now has an international audience?
Yeah, someone from Germany was listening in, so that's pretty cool.
So we now
if
have,
you're listening from Germany, hi.
do we know how to say hi in German?
I didn't take German.
I don't know.
I mean, Gesundheit. Excuse you. That's all I know. Okay, we're going to keep going on. But when I was in Israel, there were Bedouin shepherds out there, right? They have their flocks, and they're roaming around these modern cities with tents and camels, and they're living like not old days, but ancient days. And they have solar chargers for their smartphones they're holding on their camels. And when I asked our tour guide, I said, so what are they looking at on those phones? Because do all their friends have phone numbers? They said, no, they are their small computers. They are watching videos on those things and instructional videos. And so even Bedouin shepherds using solar chargers in the middle of Israel are watching
cool.
content.
That is kinda cool.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
So yeah, social media is not going away. It's actually growing. I would imagine 2.85 is low for what Mark Zuckerberg wants for Facebook. I'm sure he's continually wanting to grow. And so
And take over.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
So I think to that point, they're designing it to be more and more and more addictive. I mean, we talked a little bit in the last episode. TikTok, crazy addictive.
The algorithm's crazy.
And it never
I know,
ends. You just keep swiping
Yeah,
and
so
you keep
You know
watching
exactly
the
what
video.
you want to.
I was going to say, yeah, keep talking to me a little bit like I don't know much about it. I've seen TikTok videos, for example, posted to Facebook.
Sure.
And it's like an instructional something, but I don't have a TikTok account. I don't plan on getting one. I've not been immersed in that world. For Facebook, I could say the addiction is affirmation. You get likes, things like that. What is the addiction of TikTok? What keeps you coming back?
Do you want to cover it?
You said you deleted it just recently. I deleted it back in 2020, but I remember you just open the app on your phone and it instantly pops up with a video.
Yeah, there's not even like all right, click to get started. You just open the phone and there's a video
page. Playing. The page is called For You, and it just has an endless loop of videos for you.
You like a video and it's like, oh, the algorithm thinks, oh, they like this kind of content, and so more of that comes up.
So for even older school, you guys asked if I had Spotify. I said, I've still got Pandora. I am stuck in the late 90s. And it was from the late 90s, right? I don't know.
I used Pandora in like 2008.
Stop it. So what I liked about that, and I still use it to this day, is because you select your songs and it gets the idea what you like. And it gives you, so that's what TikTok does for little videos. And the videos are 30 seconds or less, basically.
There's some they've started to make them longer, like up to 3 minutes, I think.
Okay.
But a lot of times the joke's like 10 seconds, and you laugh
swipe,
and then you do the next
right
one.
next to the next one.
Wow.
And so honestly, like me and my wife, we used to have TikTok time. So we'd be watching TikTok throughout the day, and then we'd swap phones, and we'd watch. Oh, these are the ones you liked. Oh, that's really funny. And we noticed that a lot of our For You pages were the same, so we'd watch the same kind of videos. But it's scary because it never ends, and so you're like, I got to end on a good one, and so you keep swiping.
And then you're there for another hour.
Right.
Hour and a
like,
half.
oh, I really need to get to bed. Well, one more, and it's like it's scary.
It was just taking too much time, so I just got rid of it. And
Yeah.
So on YouTube, what got me wasn't so much will the next one be better as much as it would launch when I'm on YouTube and I'm just surfing on a specific topic. It launches me into another question. And so I watch something and I go, oh, that vehicle did really well in that Russian car crash video. So I look at the Kelly Blue Book review of that car and then I'm like, oh, what mods could you do? And then all of a sudden I've launched into a learning, an educational rabbit trail that is really trivial and not important. But let's talk about this in the context of the church for a minute, because we're talking about content consumption. And churches were streaming services more than ever during the lockdowns, and some continued that. Some only carried on an as-needs basis. Some began live streaming. Others, like our church right now, we record and Brady post content at another time. And I know while I was serving under Dr. Chris Beard down at Christ Covenant Church in Beaumont, Texas, shout out to Christ Covenant Church. Corey Miller's currently serving as the minister there. During the first wave of lockdowns, we did just shut down the entire building, but we did a live streaming podcast where live streaming service, except the worship team recorded their own time in their own way. Then I came on as the preacher. I sat basically in a chair behind a desk on a stage with a bookcase behind me. So we made a set
that
on
it
stage.
looked like a...
And they had a
funny.
television screen, so I could do live interaction with YouTube and Facebook comments. So I would say, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream out there while we get started? And, all these flavors, I can comment a little bit. Hey, Joe, it's good to see you from Michigan joining us or whatever. There was a little bit of interaction.
That's kind of cool.
So it didn't run the whole service.
Yeah.
But you can still see it on their YouTube page. It didn't run the whole service, but it was a way to connect people. Because I said, we can't shake hands or interact right now at this church. Whether I agree with their policies or not at the time is irrelevant. What did matter was that live streaming gave us a way to share, hey, be praying for me. My mom's in the hospital. Comment. I said, all right, Julie, we'll be praying for you guys. It gave me some live interaction that everybody could hear, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I wish I would have thought of that in 2020.
Everybody was thinking of everything, I think.
There was a lot of... the crisis forced us to adapt, and I learned a lot about live streaming in 2020. I was a church intern, and they were like, you're a young guy. Help us out with our cameras and stuff. And I was like, I'll do my best. And it took a long time for me to finally figure it out. But then I did, and I was like, oh, wow, I built that. And they're still using it to this day. I visit, that's my parents' home church now. So I go visit and see, hey, you still using, this setup? And they're like, yep, you set it up for us. We haven't changed a thing.
Well, and that's neat because that's something we had discussed. And at this point, I just don't think we're in a place to justify putting that kind of work into live streaming at
agree.
Mountain View.
Yeah.
For a church our size where we can still check on our folks.
Yeah.
We can still make sure they feel included. But I think we may have also dodged a bullet here as a small church because in an article from March 22nd of 2022, Kate Shellnutt wrote an article for Christianity Today entitled, Americans' Return to Church has plateaued. All right, so we're talking about consumption, and here's what happens. In this article, she states, the number of Americans overall who have attended or tuned into a church service exceeds those who say they're regular churchgoers. While overall reach has expanded, there's a segment of Christians who used to belong to a church community who aren't engaging at all anymore. And here it is. Here's the scary part. I think here's one of the bullets we may have dodged. 12% of formerly regular churchgoers say they're not attending in person or watching online who were watching online to begin with. And so you've got those who decided my new normal will be watching church from home, which, Brady, I don't think we had that here.
We had a CD that we'd give out.
And then when we did do videos, like you said, for winter weather events or whatever, we would see our number spike and then drop down to this, average of shut-ins. But I don't think that I'm aware of. We've not had anybody from this church opt to just do online services.
Just like people that can come in that strictly just say, hey, I just want to watch the YouTube video. I don't feel like coming in person.
Right. You can stay in your PJs. I call it Bedside Baptist. I can't believe you guys have never heard of that.
No, I maybe because we don't work at Baptist churches. I don't know.
So Bedside Baptist is where you stay in bed and watch church online.
Okay,
It's bedside, so you pull up your phone, whatever.
I've heard of Back Row Baptist, but I've also seen.
That's also not great.
At any church I've been to, it's not just a Baptist thing, but that's what we saw. So some folks said, hey, this is nice. Not just, oh, we have to do this, but I really like this.
Yeah.
And then they slipped out of normal fellowship, and then they can find bigger churches that maybe have weaker doctrines. And I know there's big churches with good doctrine.
Bigger churches with better preachers. More enthusiastic and charismatic.
I would agree.
Preachers.
More talent, preachers with more talent and outreach, and they also have a better production team,
right? And it looks better, and
Yeah, and I'm not mad at that. My concern is it usually connects them to a church that's not anywhere in their area
Right.
and not
Right.
dealing with needs in their town, in their city. So
And you can pause it and go get a snack, and it's like, that's not really what church is about. You shouldn't like worship with a snack in your lap, you know?
oh,
I mean, you
like I
can.
do that
There's
all the
there's
time.
ways to do that. But in terms of like communal
yes.
koinonia, if you will.
Ooh, he's busting out those Greek words.
Good.
Yeah, the Greek koinonia means fellowship,
Right.
communal kind of thing.
And that can't be replaced or substituted virtually.
It can't,
because
because
that
it kind of works, but it's at some point you need face-to-face interaction. We talked about that with the last episode.
yeah. Again, if you didn't hear episode 6, you need to go back to the place where you pulled this podcast from, and I would encourage you to listen to that because we cover the other half of this topic of what we put out there. And if you go to Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through 32, and we talk about what we are consuming, what we're consuming and taking in, it's going to affect our relationship with God. And we could talk about content that generates or is connected to lust or greed or covetousness, whatever you want to throw in there. Part of the damage that social media can do in consumption is we're ingesting things in the pursuit of being entertained or being affirmed. We start ingesting things that are going to cause issues in our relationship with God. Ephesians chapter 4, starting in verse 29 says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths." All right, that can apply to the creation of content. But then it goes on to say, "But only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who," and here it is, "listen." So this is us taking in and consuming content. And it moves on. "And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you're sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid of all bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ God forgave you." So in our consumption of social media or any content, we want to make sure it does not damage our relationship with God.
Yeah, like I said in the last episode, it's a great, wonderful tool, but it's important to use it positively and also in moderation.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I had a Bible verse I wanted to say. Jesus is talking to his disciples in Matthew 15, verse 17. "Don't you see that whatever enters the mouth goes into the stomach and then out of the body? But the things that come out of a person's mouth come from the heart, and these defile them. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, false testimony, slander. These are what defile a person, but eating with unwashed hands does not defile them." So this idea of consuming, like actual consumption.
Yeah.
He's comparing it to like eating food, but you're also, taking in content and I lost my train of thought. These evil things that might be on TV, or you can take in, the Word of God, the Bible. It's all about like what you're reading, what you're watching.
And we're responsible for that.
Yeah, it's not up to the algorithm to decide what we watch. It really is up to us.
And that's a huge point, because even on a platform like YouTube, it'll suggest the next video. And if I'm just listening to music, well, I might let the songs play, and then when I click on the history to find a song again, it's a music video, and it might not be the greatest music, so I'm not going to click on that. I'm like, no, I've got a choice to make there. Or if I am watching a video of, say, again, back to car chases. Not that I'm obsessed with this kind of thing, but car chases and car crashes, and then it suggests something that has very violent content, and I'm watching something with kids or whatever. Well, I've got to make a decision. Do I let this platform tell me what I'm going to see, or when I'm scrolling through Facebook, versus looking up someone I'm wanting to check on, a family member, see how they're doing, or do I just sit there and scroll and let Facebook tell me what's coming up on my page? Or am I going to look at my time and say, I'm going to take 10 minutes to check on some folks and family members and former church people and see how everybody's doing, or weather pages or whatever. So it's just, we are responsible for what we consume.
Any thoughts, Brady?
Sounds great.
Yeah. That's about it for me. Do you have anything else?
I think, of course, we could go down this rabbit trail. I don't think today's the time, but comment sections.
Oh yeah, we could talk about the comment section.
We could
all
talk
day.
about comment sections all day, because you can have good content that is wholesome and pure and godly, and everything lines up, and then you're going to get trolls on those comment sections.
stupid. Even had some of those on the church YouTube channel too.
I know, right?
Really, I didn't know that.
Back at the beginning,
Yeah.
yes, and those were not great links.
No, they were not.
They were not great
Ugh.
links, especially for a family to watch in a living room on a television.
And
Anyway.
and the account's profile picture too wasn't
Yeah.
the greatest.
But you can go in and like delete those.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's just evidence that even though we try to ingest or create things that are good, the world's still going to find a way to sneak in and try and mess
Yep.
that up. So we got to
Yeah.
be vigilant, be
Yeah.
on guard. Don't be scared of it. Just be on guard, be present. And with the comment section, you're not defining your content or your value in a comment section as an individual or as a church.
Yeah. And I think it's important that we think about that as we are creating this podcast. We're not doing it. I mean, we hardly have any comments. We hardly have that many viewers. But we're not doing it for the viewers. We're doing it because we believe that it's beneficial for those who do view it.
Right. Yeah. So we are praying that people are blessed through this podcast, but we are not sitting around necessarily waiting on feedback at this point. We are at peace with what we're putting out there, and we prepare well enough to know this is truth as much as we know it. And
If you do have feedback, you can
Yes.
email us at podcast@mvcc6mile.org. That's the number 6.
that's right, numeric 6 there. This has been Mike.
And Drew.
At Mountain View with Brady.
Thank you for listening to the Mike and Drew at Mountain View podcast. And as Drew just shared, you can email us at podcast@mvcc6mile.org. And please share this content with your friends and family.
And wear a seatbelt.